All right, let's dive into something fascinating. We're going to explore the science behind one of our most basic, everyday needs, hunger.
So let's just start with a question that affects every single one of us, every single day. What's really happening in your brain when you start to feel hungry?
You know that rumbling in your stomach? Well, it turns out that's only part of the story. The real feeling of hunger, that's a much more complex command, a really powerful signal that actually starts deep, deep inside your brain. So, why is this command so powerful? Well, it's because food does three things for us that are just absolutely vital. First, it's our energy source, right? Our fuel. Second, it gives us the building materials our bodies need to repair and grow. And third, and this is a big one, it's a huge source of positive emotions. Okay, so now we're going to take a little trip deep inside the brain to find the actual command center, the place that's running the whole show when it comes to our appetite. And here it is. We're zeroing in on this tiny little spot called the hypothalamus. Don't let its size fool you, though. This thing is incredibly powerful. Think of it like the master control room for all of your body's most essential needs. We're talking hunger, thirst, even your body temperature. Okay, so here's where it gets really cool. Inside this control room, it's not just one switch. It's more like two competing forces that are in a constant battle. You've got the hunger center in one corner, basically screaming, "Go eat, go eat!" And then in the other corner, you have the satiety center, which is telling you, okay, stop eating, we're full. It's this constant push and pull competition that regulates everything. And how do we know this balance is so critical? Well, some pretty dramatic experiments from back in the mid-20th century showed us. Get this, when scientists damaged the hunger center in a cat, it would literally starve to death, even with a bowl full of food right there. But if they damaged the satiety center, the opposite happened. The cat would just eat and eat and eat, leading to extreme obesity. It just perfectly illustrates how these two centers are the absolute master regulators. Okay, so the big question is, what tells these centers when to fire up? How does the control room even get its information? Well, it all comes down to chemical messengers. First up, and probably the most important messenger, is glucose. Just think of glucose as the main fuel for your body, like gasoline for a car. When the levels of glucose in your blood start to drop, that's a powerful signal that goes right to the hunger center saying, hey, time to refuel. But it's not just about blood sugar. Your stomach gets to vote too. When it's empty, its walls release this hormone called ghrelin. People call it the I'm empty hormone, and it basically travels straight to the brain to yell, hey, we need some food down here. And then finally, there's the long-term manager. This one is different. Your fat cells release a hormone called leptin, which is kind of the I'm full hormone. Its job is to signal to the brain about your body's big picture energy stores, helping to keep your appetite in check and maintain your weight over time. So we've got all these mechanics, right? Hormones, brain centers. But the story doesn't end there. Not even close. The connection between our brain and food is so much deeper. It's all tied up with our emotions, our memories, and the way we learn. And our brain is just an amazing learning machine. Look at how this works. First, when we eat something and it satisfies our hunger, our brain generates this really powerful, positive emotional response. Like, wow, that felt good. Then step 2, our brain immediately starts linking that great feeling with all the other sensory stuff. The smell of coffee, the sight of a specific brand, the sound of a sizzling pan. And that creates a super strong memory, which basically hardwires us to want that food again. And guess who knows all about this brilliant biological system? Yep, advertisers and marketers. They are masters at tapping into this. They combine pictures of food with feelings of fun, friendship, happiness, you name it. And what does that do? It creates these incredibly powerful, almost impossible to resist cravings. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's actually decode the food on your plate. Because the different types of food, what we call macronutrients, they all send very different signals to your brain and your body. So basically, our food is made up of 3 main things. You've got carbohydrates, which are your go-to for immediate energy. They break down into that glucose we were just talking about. Then you've got fats, which are for long-term energy storage and building the very walls of your cells. And then there's proteins. They're the primary building blocks for your whole body. And when it comes to those building blocks, there's something really important you need to know. It all boils down to this single number. And that number is 8. Here's why it matters. Proteins are made from these little building blocks called amino acids. But there are 8 of them that are called essential for a reason. Your body cannot make them at all. They are completely non-negotiable.
The only way to get them is from the food you eat, and you need them to build and repair pretty much everything in your body. And this really brings the whole thing full circle, doesn't it? The key takeaway here is that our brains are always learning. That stream of positive emotion you get from eating teaches your brain to remember everything associated with that food, not just the taste, but the sights, the smells, the social situation, all the little cues that scream, hey, food is here. Which leaves us with the big challenge we all face today. Our brains are ancient. They evolved in a world where food was scarce, so they're hardwired to seek out and store every last calorie. But now, we live in a world of complete abundance. Food is everywhere. So every day, it's a battle between our ancient brain and our modern world. And the question is, who's going to win?